and a warm welcome to today's Keeper tutorial. In this tutorial, I want to introduce you to one of the best and most secure password managers out there, Keeper. I can wholeheartedly recommend Keeper, both for individuals and for businesses. Keeper advertises on its website with numerous awards, a huge customer base worldwide in 150 countries, 70,000 business clients, and 4 million secured data, secured people. Probably secured passwords. It features this unique end-to-end encryption that operates at a military-grade level, the 256-bit encryption that most password managers use. And yes, it has a very good security architecture, an elegant interface, but not all logos from well-known manufacturers or popular websites are recognized. That bothers me because Roboform recognizes almost all of them, and even NordPass is clearly better than Keeper in this regard. Oh, by the way, before I forget, of course, we can also switch everything to English or Spanish, whether English, Spanish, or French. That doesn't make much sense for me, of course, since the videos will be exclusively in English. In any case, you can take a look here to see how this entire encryption method works and read through it if you're interested. I think Keeper has a very appealing modern website here that inspires trust. Exactly. And I don't want to go into too much detail here. What honestly matters more to me is this comparison up here. Here you can compare Keeper with LastPass, 1Password, or any other password manager. Yes, it's actually quite good that Keeper specifies exactly how these password managers work, and of course what makes it better than, for example, LastPass. And you can see that quite clearly here, and I also think it's important that Keeper really encrypts everything, URLs, passwords, just everything, and that there's a truly secure master password. And yes, down here there's another summary. It's a modern cloud-based storage password manager, sorry. It also offers the option to store secure notes. Yes, and that was the comparison between LastPass and Keeper. And of course, this also applies to other password managers. If you're interested, feel free to take a look. Then here we have password management for enterprise, for business, for personal, and for family. And of course, that's interesting for me and for my target audience. But just briefly before I get to that, the prices for Keeper are of course already quite expensive or more expensive, both in dollars and in euros. In fact, they start at $3 or $4, and in euros, it's almost the same. For personal use, and that puts Keeper actually in the top tier of password managers, so in the expensive segment, as far as I know, the only one that's even more expensive is Dashlane. And for business and enterprise, there are of course also different pricing models and tiers. They start at $2 and go up to $85. That of course is really the enterprise version for larger companies. Or for people who really say, I have several employees, I need multiple accesses, I need certain features and backups and so on. And of course, we can also see here what is included in this version. The features and the benefits, and of course it's the same for the the personal account and the family account. Then of course it becomes correspondingly cheaper. If you have a large family and they're using this password manager, then it's better in terms of price. As for downloading, I can only say it works for Windows. Keeper is also available for smartphones. If you want, you can use Keeper directly in Windows, but I use it directly in the browser, either in Chrome or Edge. And that's more convenient than logging in through Windows every time. But just so you know, that version, that option exists. And as I said, you can also use it on your phone or tablet. All right, then here we have the resources. I actually find them really good. Other websites and password managers have this too, but with Keeper, I just find it particularly special. You can participate in webinars and further educate yourself on the topic of cybersecurity. You can practically look up this glossary here, and you'll find interesting information and infographics on the topic of cybersecurity. You can check your data on the dark web here, and I hope it doesn't show up on the dark web. Yes, and of course there's also the option to use this free password generator, but I'll get to that in a moment. And yes, there are a lot of case studies and guides included, end user guides that are probably especially interesting for companies and probably less so for private individuals, because these really focus on how to get the most out of the password manager for personal users in a home office, and also for private users. This isn't all that interesting. But just so you've seen it, Keeper has a great website. They offer a lot of resources, and that's exactly what I wanted to mention. The enterprise and business versions are, of course, reserved for customers who really want to get more out of this password manager. who want to monitor your data on the dark web if it appears there, who want even more security features, and yes, exactly. But there really isn't that much of a difference. So at its core, it's still all about being a password manager. And with the business version, that's naturally also suitable for people like me. Let's say for freelancers or small businesses who don't need a personal version because they have a business. Of course, you can also test the whole thing for 30 days for free with the full range of features, but after those 30 days, the passwords are essentially encrypted, meaning you have to pay to continue having access. It's basically a demo version, practically speaking, but I still think it's good that you can test everything without any restrictions. Yes, and of course now we'll take a look at all of this in practice. As I already mentioned about the prices, it starts here at $2 and goes up to the enterprise version at $5 per month. Here, the benefits are listed again, showing exactly what you get for it. And it's simply a very basic password manager with the most important features, I'd say, suitable for both individuals and companies. Here, for example, we have now, I just need to check what's all listed here. Team management, so it's actually suitable for employees as well. Security audit, a larger dashboard, more features, unlimited features, exactly. So simply put, more is available here. And at the end of the day, it obviously makes sense for small businesses or for companies that really want to use this password manager with multiple people. It even says here, minimum of 5. Yes, and those who then want unlimited passwords who also want to be able to share these passwords with others. There are also additional features, but as a private individual, I can't really say much about them, or as a small business owner, because I've never tested them myself. I just see it here on paper, but I would still recommend Keeper for a business and also for a company. It is definitely worth it. It is one of the most prominent password managers in 2025. And now I'm logged into my Keeper account here. So this is what it looks like. And it also says here that I only have 21 days to test everything. I can also just click that away. I'll probably even buy it because it's truly one of my absolute favorites. I've also tested NordPass and RoboForm, as well as LastPass, and what's the other one called? Passwordmanager. I don't know right now. But in any case, I've tested quite a few, and Keeper actually impressed me the most because it's really the most secure and also has a truly modern interface. Plain and simple, in my opinion. Yeah, now you can see all my passwords, or rather, not the passwords themselves, but the websites where I've entered these passwords. And the whole thing works pretty simply. That means you can add a new password or something else here at any time. For example, a folder, a subfolder, a shared folder, a password generator, or a record. And we want to generate a new password. For example, for Amazon as an example, we could then use this password here. But we could also say, I don't want any numbers, I don't want any symbols, which makes the whole thing a bit simpler, but unfortunately also much less secure. So let's leave the numbers in, 20 characters. That's already pretty strong. Of course, you could also come up with your own password, but that's what password managers are primarily for. Let these good passwords be generated for you here, quite literally by rolling the dice. And of course, you can also say, I'll go even higher. I'll set it to 25 or 30 characters. The longer it is, the more secure the password will be. Yes, and you can also easily insert it at any time using the autofill function. So that means we take this password, we save this password, and then we can simply add Amazon here accordingly. As I said, this is just an example. Login and our login details. I could then use my email address here, or yours, of course. In this case, Amazon.com, which is of course worldwide, or Amazon.de if you're in Germany, or Amazon. Whatever the case, the ending now applies to the American person, of course. All right, then I save the whole thing, and then this password appears here in Keeper with this password generator, just as we created it a moment ago. Yes, exactly. You can, of course, also share it with someone, with an employee, or with a close person who needs this password, for example, for a login. For example, let's say the enterprise wants to order something from Amazon, or only with people you really trust. All right, and then here we also have the option to change the color in case that's of interest to you. As mentioned, you can share the whole thing, also share it via a link, move it, create folders, and create a shortcut, but I rarely use these functions except for the add to favorites function. That means it will then appear in the favorites. However, I actually don't know where they are on the laptop because I usually use it on my phone. Then there's also the grid function. That means you can see all passwords in this grid view if you prefer it that way, like in LastPass, or alternatively in the list view. Here are the favorites. Exactly. So here I have Thunderbird, Amazon, and All Inca. Of course, I can just delete it again now because I don't need it. I don't have Amazon. That was just an example. And we want to delete this entry again. Okay, done. Then the password is in the trash, and you also have to remove it from the trash accordingly. All right, let's continue. We also have the identity section here. Here we can add the relevant credit cards or other payment methods, so mainly credit cards or PayPal here. But I don't really like to do that. For one thing, I only have one credit card and I rarely use PayPal, and for another, I personally don't want to enter my personal data here, like my ID card, personal ID, or credit cards, into a password manager. But theoretically, the option exists, just so you know. And then we have the security audit. That's also available with NordPass and RoboForm with all well-known password managers. And it tells us how good our password security is. I actually had a score of 90 with RoboForm recently. But since I moved everything over and started using weaker passwords again, the score here is a bit lower now. And my weakness always is, and I think most people have this is just an example using something like house or estate 22. Just as an example, of course, I don't actually use that password. And then I use estate 37 and estate 42 and so on. And of course, it's super easy to remember, but the problem is, for a forum, it's not an issue, like Sims4 or an esotericism forum or something like that. But for other sites where you actually enter sensitive data, for example, with a paywall, I would definitely never use a password like that. And of course, the most popular passwords are also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my darling Rose House Estate, of course, or my summer, and you can check here how strong your passwords are and which ones you should improve. It does tell me they're strong, like really strong, but apparently they're not strong enough. I can definitely improve them. And that's pretty much all there is to see here, just the 2 passwords that aren't so strong. And then you either get extra points or points deducted here as well. Depending on whether new strong passwords are added, you get additional points. And of course, if I improve everything too. But that's just a rough guideline, about 70%. That doesn't mean the passwords are bad. It's just these 2 passwords from Cadence. By the way, I'm not even using that team right now. And I'm not using Papergram either. So I'd say I have a good SEO audit, a security audit of over 80%. Bravewatch, Breachwatch, sorry. So that's available in NordPass as well, but it's called something different there. And here it's about being able to monitor your data on the dark web, so to speak. You can, if you have this version, I think it's an upgrade. No, I think it actually works even without it. So you can definitely find out if your data appears on the dark web with a really simple checkout. But it is behind a paywall, unfortunately. Of course, that's quite expensive. So if you have this upgrade feature in the Absolute Business or Enterprise version, you can enter your email address and password here and find out if they appear on the dark web. By the way, NordPass offers this feature for free, and LastPass includes it in a much cheaper package. That's actually the case. So with Keeper, this Breach Watch is really an additional feature that costs extra. So finally, I still have the deleted items here. Okay, I'll get to that too when I subscribe to the Pro version. Yes, so if I buy the Pro version at the end of October, then I'll also be able to delete these passwords accordingly. I think that's a bit silly, but okay, so be it. That's how it is. Now, these are just all the secure add-ons here, but I probably don't even have all of them. As I said, this is the 30-day trial feature. Breachwatch costs extra. Keeper is also available for an additional charge. And then we also have secure file storage and the Keeper family plan, as well as the concierge service and Keeper for Business. The name already says it all, of course. Concierge, I can pronounce it now. So, support in German for business customers and of course for enterprise customers, but for an extra fee. Extra fee. Otherwise, you can only adjust the settings here, of course. You can set different colors here if you want to. Then the background will change to orange, but I thought black looked quite nice. Yes, here you can choose a stricter login, especially 2-factor authentication. That just makes everything more secure. I would advise against it. I did it with LastPass and I was so clever and thought no hacker will ever get in again that I ended up locking myself out with my super genius password and the two-factor method. So you don't absolutely need it. It's better to create a secure master password. That's definitely the better option. Yeah, these are all just nice little features where you can customize the background, improve accessibility, and add extra functions. But there's one feature that's very, very important to us. You can easily import passwords from KeePass, Kaspersky, Roboform, and all the others, basically as an Excel file. And then Keeper, or you can also do it from Robux, will simply take over these passwords. And of course, you also have the option to export this CSV file or PDF and, for example, upload it to NordPass. Almost all modern password managers offer this feature as well, and that's definitely a good thing. So with that, we've basically reached the end of our tutorial. As you can see, it's a relatively stylish, simple password manager. And in the basic version that I have now, so basically a demo version, you can manage and organize passwords quite well. And I almost forgot an important feature, the ability to automatically log in to a website from here. That means you get Keeper for Chrome, for Firefox, and for all other browsers, and you can then log into a website accordingly. I'm just thinking right now, nothing comes to mind spontaneously at the moment. Your logins will then appear here, for example, from Payball or Steam, LinkedIn, eBay, and Yahoo, where you can then log in automatically. Vivaldi Papercomb, I have to think for a moment about where this works best, because actually there are a lot of websites here that are set up with two-factor authentication. That's why it's a bit more difficult here on my other laptop. Maybe most likely here with the Jotter Cloud, although I have to say that most of it actually runs through Gmail, so I don't really need to enter a password there. And that's the problem with almost all of them here. But I think it works with iStrive. That I just log in automatically with my Gmail account and not with any other login credentials. Yeah, we can definitely do that with iStrive. There's also no two-factor authentication, and I don't have to confirm anything extra. So I can log into iStrive directly. Is this even iStrive? It looks kind of weird. No, this is iStrive. So iStrive is a cloud storage service, and I actually use it without Google login, and now I can simply insert the data from Keeper here. That means Keeper automatically transfers this data for iStrive file, and then we can, or in this case you can, log in automatically. This works with any website that doesn't use Gmail and doesn't require additional confirmation via your phone. So now I'm in my password manager, my items and subliminals are in here, and it works great. I can definitely recommend it to you. As I said, you can easily download Keeper as an add-on for the Chrome browser, for Edge, or for any other browser, and then simply log in automatically here using the autofill function. Yeah, there's really nothing more to say about Keeper. Definitely one of the best password managers. And as I said, you can test the whole thing here for free for 30 days. Keeper is one of the most secure password managers of 2020, has also received several awards in various tests and ranks third in most of them. And I can recommend it, both for your personal use and for businesses, for companies, really for all industries in general.